June 17, 1921, the Afro-American, Baltimore, Maryland. Says 200 met death in the Tulsa riots. Investigator for the National Association for Advancement of Colored People back from Oklahoma. Walter F. White, Assistant Secretary of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, 75th Avenue, New York, returned today after a personal investigation of the recent race riot in Tulsa, Oklahoma, saying that between 150 and 200 Negroes were killed in the riots and at least 50 white persons. Having been sworn in as a deputy sheriff and having been on patrol as such during the Tulsa riot, said Mr. White today, I am able to state that the Tulsa riot in sheer brutality and willful destruction of life and property stands without a parallel in America. Abuse and misuse of the word assault caused the entire conflagration. A white girl operating an elevator in a public building declared that a colored boy had attempted to assault her. Without stopping to inquire, and without considering the utter impossibility of criminal assault being perpetrated in broad open daylight in the public elevator of a public building on a principal street of a town of 100,000, a senseless mob set out to avenge the honor of white womanhood. As a result, between 200 and 250 white and colored citizens are known to have been killed. An unknown number of colored men and women and children were burned alive. 44 square blocks of business and residential property, valued at $1.5 million, were destroyed, and everlasting damage done to the name of Tulsa and of Oklahoma. In justice to Tulsa, it must be said that a large percentage of the white inhabitants condemned in unmeasured terms the outrage which has been perpetrated. The Salvation Army, the Red Cross, local relief agencies, and churches have done commendable work in providing food, clothing, and shelter for the destitute victims of the riot. Tulsa's experience is exceedingly important in that conditions which led to its night of terror exist in many other cities, north and south, and unless unusual efforts are used, the gravest consequences are to be feared. Some of the white citizens of Tulsa are attempting to blame the riot on Negro radicalism. When I questioned them regarding the nature of this radicalism, I found, invariably, that it consisted of demands by Negroes that the federal Constitution be enforced and that lynching, peonage, disenfranchisement, and Jim Crowism be abolished. There will be a state investigation of the riot, but in the opinion of the citizens of Tulsa, it will amount to nothing. The Tulsa riot has convinced me that the only hope of averting repetitions of it lies in federal interference. June 17, 1921, Afro-American, Baltimore, Maryland. Former Morgan teacher tells of Tulsa riot. Whites not only burned colored section, but looted it of all valuables. Actors fled. Members of Cleo Mitchell forced off stage while in costume. By JBC. The Afro-American is fortunate in getting the story of Tulsa from a former Baltimore young woman now living in an adjacent town. It is undoubtedly the most vivid picture yet produced of the riot there. The editors. Tulsa is located in the central part of Oklahoma and is the richest town of the state. The Negro population was completely segregated and limited to the extreme north end of town, two short business streets, Archer and Greenwood. Among the many business enterprises were the following: a clothing store owned by T.J. Elliott, merchant of Muskogee, who has a chain of stores throughout the state. The Stratford Hotel, erected 3 years ago at a cost of about $50,000 by J.B. Stratford. This same Stratford has been arrested at some point in the state of Kansas, accused of being the instigator of the trouble. He will fight extradition. Several other prominent race leaders and business owners have been named, all of whom are plainly innocent of any act to promote conflict. The Dreamland Theater, owned by J.W. Williams, also lost by fire. The most elaborate pleasure house in the chain of 3 owned by Mr. Williams. The printing shop owned by A.J. Smitherman, editor of the Tulsa Star. The Dreamland Confectionery, also owned by the aforenamed J.W. Williams. The Red Wing Hotel, and many other buildings which contributed to the thrift and prosperity of the race in Tulsa. Many beautiful homes were laid in ruins. The entire Negro settlement was destroyed by flames kindled by the whites. Bombs were dropped from aeroplanes. Long-distance guns shot through the houses, thus setting fire to them. In some cases, the Negroes were driven out like a herd of cattle, destitute and many barely clad. The kindling flames enabled the white mob to find their way to everything of value in the homes. Jewelry, money, furniture, even automobiles were stolen before the flames had a chance to destroy them. Wearing apparel was also stolen. In fact, everything. One young man reported to me the loss of 15 suits of clothes and also $700, his savings, which were taken from him at the point of a gun. Many employers hid their colored employees in their homes. The colored teachers were taken into the homes of the white teachers of the city. Many refugees walked to Muskogee, a distance of nearly 60 miles. May 31st, a colored boy by the name of Rowland, on entering an elevator, accidentally stepped on the foot of the elevator girl. She became very angry and screamed, striking him with her bag. During the excitement, a white man came up. Rowland escaped to the Negro district. The girl, in relating the incident, caused such a furor that the whites began to talk of lynching Rowland. He was arrested and placed in jail. The whites began to gather and demand the body of the boy. This was a summons to the Negroes to gather to protect Rowland. Threats from each side were made. The officials assured the Negroes that they had conditions under control. Before the Negroes left the courthouse, an altercation took place between a Negro and a white man. The white man was bantering the Negro with a gun in his hand. The Negro snatched the gun. A white man drew his gun to shoot the Negro. He was not quick enough. Another Negro dropped him with a bullet. Then the battle took place on the day of May 31st. During the night, the state guards and home guards of adjacent cities were summoned. At 5 o'clock June 1st, the Tulsa Home Guards, reinforced by men from the country, vandals and thugs, struck the Negro community. The Negroes were not expecting the attack. Men were shot down without warning. The police force was nil. When the fires were kindled, the fire department did not serve. It is plainly evident that white real estate men encouraged the destruction of the homes in order to take over the advantageous locations on Archer and Greenwood. It is desired for factories, a Union Depot, and other white institutions. The enclosed clipping from the Muskogee paper of June 8th will bear this out plainly and show that the City Commission plans to prevent Negroes from rebuilding their homes on the old sites by requiring all new buildings to be of stone. It is planned to move the colored section. Dr. Jackson, one of the leading surgeons of the Southwest, Mr. Ed Howard, an influential businessman, were among those killed. Deaths: whites, 17, colored, 23. It is known that many Negroes were killed and their bodies thrown in the river and otherwise disposed of, so no one knows the exact number of those murdered. The last count shows 141 Negroes injured. Bishop Ed Mozart White of the M.E. Church South has said that the lecture by Du Bois last winter lent flames to the riot. One would not expect a bishop to be a propagandist. His assertion is ridiculous. Can an elephant stumble over straw? The drift, trifling element of both races started the trouble, but escaped. In this case, the innocent suffered not with the guilty, but for them. The Cleo Mitchell Theatrical Company, playing at the Dreamland Theater, were forced to flee off the stage, dressed only in stage costume, losing everything. They were outfitted by the Red Cross. August 19, 1921, the Afro-American, Baltimore, Maryland. Tulsa victims will sue for $4 million. Owners to claim damages from city for property destroyed by race riots. Rebuilding going on. 65 buildings under construction, but 4,000 still live in tents. Tulsa, Oklahoma, August 18. Victims who owned property destroyed June 1st by race rioting will sue the city for $4 million. The whites who owned property in the colored section are also preparing to file separate suits for losses totaling more than $500,000. Negroes are building rapidly in the burnt districts of Tulsa. Mr. G.F. Gabe, a prominent colored man, when questioned as to whether they feared arrest for violating fire and building regulations, said, "They had better get the jail ready for us, because we are going to keep on building. Negroes are not waiting for winter to come and not have any place to live. They are building on their own ground, and if the city authorities intervene, they will carry their cases to the highest courts in the land for redress." Over 65 house buildings have been put up, some temporarily for winter. Cops stopped work on 7 houses. In one instance, Mayor Evans White told P.W. Ross to go ahead and build his. Don't care what the building inspector says. Mr. Curley and several other prominent businessmen are building fireproof store blocks on North Greenwood Avenue. The Reading Hotel will soon be completed. This structure will be 5 stories high and have 50 rooms. 4,000 colored people are still living in tents. October 7, 1921. The Afro-American, Baltimore, Maryland. Alleged inciter of Tulsa riot given release. Dick Rowland found not to have assaulted white elevator girl as charged. Rebuilding going on. Winter likely to catch some of the riot victims living in tents. Tulsa, Oklahoma, October 6. Dick Rowland, bellboy, who is alleged to have raped Sarah Page, white, June 1st last, which precipitated the Tulsa riots, was released from the county jail last week. It was brought out in the investigation that Rowland was entirely innocent of any crime or misdemeanor, that the white girl never complained of any such charges as were published in the white daily newspapers. Sarah Page vanished and has never been apprehended since the day she made a statement refuting the charges alleged against Rowland. Criminal cases of rioting against J. H. Smitherman, editor, M. S. Weaver, Mose Fitzgerald, Eugene Wharton, Andrew Brown, A. B. J. Taylor, and William Dixon, leading colored citizens, came before the court last week. Charges against Dixon were dismissed. The others have asked for a change of venue. Greenwood, the colored section of Tulsa destroyed by fire, is being rebuilt rapidly, although it is feared that the winter season will catch some of the riot victims still living in tents.